We are witnessing a war on our monetary energy, on our tokenized time and energy, but we don't notice it. The problem starts when you need to spend your money because it's obvious then it gets worth less in the future. That is a problem because then you are compelled to spend it, and I don't like being compelled to do anything. With gold, the surprise is to the upside. With your life, the surprise is mainly to the downside. If you, however, choose to view the products through a different lens of a different money, which is fixed, which cannot be inflated, then you will see the productivity gains very obviously.
Elon Musk once said, with AI and robotics, money itself will become a footnote in history. So you disagree with that, right? "93% of the viewers of this channel aren't subscribed. If you enjoy this content, a like, comment, and a sub really helps my content show up for others too. Thanks so much for your support." So we're talking with Bruce-Boye. I've seen you having presentations today. You led a panel, talk a lot about Bitcoin. So I have also a Bitcoin question to start with. What do you think? How does Bitcoin change our culture? What is the cultural impact of Bitcoin? What do you think?
I think Bitcoin incentivizes long-term thinking. I noticed it myself, but I also noticed it with everybody who understood Bitcoin and who uses Bitcoin. Their time preference decreases. It's always tricky to think, does it expand or does it decrease? Yeah, their time preference.
Why actually does it decrease?
So that's the interesting question, because I've been thinking about it, and I think money is basically an abstraction of your time and energy.
Yeah.
And if that abstraction gets inflated away, and then you're basically trapped in a hamster wheel. You always need to run. And always when you are in some sort of crisis, the time horizon, the time preference expands, the time horizon decreases. People who are in crisis areas, in war zones, they just think about today and tomorrow. They don't think about in 2 years' time or in 3 years' time. And we are witnessing a war on our monetary energy, on our tokenized time and energy, but we don't notice it. But obviously, we don't notice it explicitly, but we notice it implicitly. And everybody notices that everything gets more expensive. They have more to do. They need more time to achieve the same thing. And in such an environment, the time horizon decreases and the time preferences increase.
Yeah, interesting. I just today talked about meditation. And isn't meditation the opposite? Because you're in the moment, there is no thinking. The opposite than Bitcoin.
Actually, I don't do meditation, so I couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would guess meditation is being present and being in the moment, but I don't think that Bitcoin's core strength is that it brings you in the moment. I think its core strength is that it preserves your time and energy in the future. And because you know that your time and energy is preserved for the future, that gives you the ability to focus on the moment, but also gives you the ability to think for the future. So Bitcoin basically gives you the freedom to choose in which time slot you want to think. You can think of today, because your time and energy is well protected, but you can also think of in 10 years, because you know that your time and energy from today will be protected also in 10 years. So what I've witnessed is that my Bitcoin friends, they are very optimistic about the future. They are very optimistic about starting a family. They have a lot of faith in what happens in the future. They return to the faith. They become faithful in their and believe in God. And I think these are all positive developments.
Yeah, certainly. I do remember though, before Bitcoin, my stepfather always told me, you have to spend money and you will trust on it and it will come back. It didn't really work out 100%, so it didn't really come back that well. What's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think spending money is your good right. If you've earned it, spend how much you want. I think the problem becomes that the problem starts when you need to spend your money because it's obvious then it gets worth less in the future. That is a problem because then you are compelled to spend it, and I don't like being compelled to do anything. And if you have sound money like Bitcoin, which holds its worth over a long period of time or even increases in worth because people begin to monetize it, I think also in that environment it is rational to spend it if you need something. Because what is more scarce than Bitcoin? It's time. It's your personal time. And to enrich my personal time with my monetary energy, if it's stored in Bitcoin or on something else, I think there's nothing wrong with it. And actually,
but isn't time more comparable with gold, because time is limited? We know that, but we don't know how limited it is. And gold is the same. We don't know how limited gold really is. Bitcoin, we know for sure we're gonna die on that day, because that's a hard mathematical limit.
Well, with gold, the surprise is to the upside. With your life, the surprise is mainly to the downside. So it's basically completely different. With gold, you hope that it's not. You hope that you will not get surprised, but in the sense that you hope that it doesn't expand. With your life, you calculate that you live until 85, but there are very few people who get surprised and live until 120. But there are a lot of people who get surprised and live until 50, 40, 30.
Yeah.
And having that in the back of your mind is, I think, valuable, because it also compels you in a positive way, in a in a way of your own agency to live in the moment.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think? How well does Bitcoin go with AI?
Oh, I think they work perfectly together.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things. The first question is, which money will AI use? Will they use the dollar? I don't think so, because the dollar doesn't have any digital rails. And even if it had, the settlement time of dollars right now is like multiple days, 30 to 40 days, until the dollar is really settled in the environment which we live in now. So if I were an AI, I would like to have a money which is digital native and which has the right properties which a money should have. I would analyze all the monies and think, well, there's a money which is printable by a government. I don't like that as an AI. There's another money which is digital native, which is not printable by anyone. It's not corruptible. It's not hackable, not even by me. Maybe I'll use that money. So I think in the future, AI will use Bitcoin. And another thing which comes to mind is that a future with AI and robotics may become prosperous in the sense that we will have a lot of things which could be produced very cheaply.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the cheapness of the products will arrive at the end consumer, because the central bank have a mandate to increase inflation by 2% every year. So it doesn't matter how efficient our processes become. It doesn't matter how cheap it is to produce something. There's always the central bank which will see this productivity gain and try to inflate it so that we will have a net inflation of minimum 2%. And in their frame of reference, it makes actually sense. But for you as an end consumer, it means that even if everything gets produced very cheaply, you will still pay a higher price than today. If you, however, choose to view the products through a different lens of a different money, which is fixed, which cannot be inflated, then you will see the productivity gains very obviously. So I think if you want to see the world of abundance which AI and robotics can bring, you need the right money to view it. And I think Bitcoin is the right money.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I talked about like a thought experiment with Daniel Wingen from the Bitcoin Bundesverband, and you know what a perpetual motion machine is, right? And you know the best why it cannot work physically, right? It's against the laws of physics, right? It's not possible, right? But isn't it possible that robotics and AI can mimic the outcome, not necessarily break the laws of physics, but we get in an environment, as you basically also said, where everything is automated to such an extent that we hardly need to put any effort into fixing it. Like the whole food supply, the energy supply, everything is basically finished. Do we end up? What role will money play then? Still, is it going to end up being a reputation token for those who actually want to do more, and the rest can just live? It's kind, yeah.
Yeah. So three things. The first is in that world, everything may be automated and everything may seem as if we have a perpetuum mobile, but it breaks down at the point where you think all of this needs to be powered by a lot of energy. So we need an energy source somewhere, fusion, fission, something like that, which powers all these machines. So it's not like we will live in a world where things just magically appear and work. We will have gigantic energy channeling reactors like fusion and fission,
which AI could optimize themselves by.
They could optimize themselves, but we will see the prosperity of our nation also in the energy use of our nation. So it won't be like, oh, how does all this happen? Like in a perpetuum mobile, you will see, oh, well, they use 100 times more energy than 20 years back. That's the reason why. And the second thing, I think the money which people use now, the dollar and the euro, everything will always cost more in these currencies. So also in a world where the robots and the AI will do everything for us, everything will be still way more expensive than it is now. So in that sense, money still makes sense. But if we try to disregard that and pretend, well, maybe we'll use a better money and everything becomes cheaper and the cheapness gets reflected also in the price of goods, then we will still need a form of money, because these robots and the AI, they can only produce consumer goods at a cheap level. What they can't do is give me a nice club membership. They can't give me a house at the beach. They can't give me a nice experience. They can't bring me to a safari. And all those things will still be desirable by people. And we will still need something to pay for these exclusive things. So maybe the basic needs will be met, but the exclusive things will always have a price.
And our needs will also evolve at the same time, because on the other hand, if you look at it from the other side, it's like we end up in communism, not by means of a political ideology, but by means of progress, technological.
Right now, we have needs which were unfathomable 150 years ago. Nobody would have dreamed that we would like to get into an airplane and jump out of an airplane with a parachute. That's like a need which I don't have personally, but a few people have it, which is basically a suicide need 150 years ago. And a lot of, as technology evolves, there are new needs which get created, and I think this will never stop.
I mean, Elon Musk once said, with AI and robotics, money itself will become a footnote in history. So you disagree with that, right?
Yes. Well, I obviously know that Elon Musk is way smarter than me, but I still disagree with it, because I think for basic consumer goods, this may happen, but not for prime and luxurious experiences. There will always be a price for that. There will always be a market for that. There will always be, like, imagine robots and I can produce cars. There will still be cars which would be way more expensive than the normal mass-producible cars. And yeah, so I think money will always play a role, especially for the premium things.
I mean, he wants to go to Mars, so maybe one day we'll be jumping around the planets. Interesting. Last question is Bitcoin inevitable?
I think yes. I think the creation of Bitcoin was inevitable even before Bitcoin was created, but the time was not defined. Then Bitcoin got created, but it wasn't clear that Bitcoin was inevitable. But now we have reached a point in time where Bitcoin is decentralized in all of the world. It's accepted by the biggest banks. It's accepted by the biggest money manager. The US are planning on starting a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So Bitcoin has reached escape velocity. So the idea was inevitable all along, and Bitcoin became inevitable and now fulfills this idea.
Yeah, crazy. Just as a last note, last year I was in Madeira asking people on the Bitcoin Atlantis conference if they think Bitcoin will become the world reserve currency or a reserve currency. And of course, Bitcoiners, they all agreed, but most of them said it's going to take a very long time. I remember that. And then 1 year later, it's already happening. So looking backward, it happened really fast, actually.
Yeah, I think we underestimate timing all the time. We think things happen sooner. We think things take longer. We rarely get the timing right. But that's okay. That's okay.
Great. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks.
Nice.